Hello, fellow animators. I just want to take a few minutes and run you through the tween machine I created in MaxScript for 3D Max 2009. I have not tested it in any of the more current versions of Max, but I assume it will also work in more recent versions of Max. First, I assume you've all been to my website and downloaded the script from themichaelsmith.com. Once you've downloaded the script and saved it to some location, you go to MaxScript and open the script, or you can just run the script. I'm going to go ahead and just run it. And it brings up an interface here. Go ahead and try it out here. We'll create a teapot in the viewport, and we'll give it an animation to in between. Go ahead and change this to 16 frames just for this. It's easy to in between 16 frames. And let's give it a position and a rotation, and we'll scale it too. So we've got two keys, one here and one here. This down here. We'll turn it to stepped keys. So now we've got 1 and 2 keyframes. And now let's say I want the in-between position. I go ahead and click in-between. It automatically adds an in-between between those two frames. And then you can go obviously in between those two, and now we've got more keys, and you can in between it down to ones. And now we've got a bunch of stepped keys. We play the animation. It also works, let's say we'll delete these keys. Delete that key. Let's say we want to animate the radius. Let's make it 40 here, and we'll make it 20 here, just so we know what the in-between values are. You go to 8 and click in-between, and it'll set a keyframe. Yeah, so the different ways to input values are you can type in a percentage that you want it to be, such as I use 90% a lot. You can also add 10 or minus 10 buttons to kind of go through each 10 value, or you can use these to go right directly to 0, 100%, 75, 25, 66 and 33 and 50%. Also, just with the time slider, if you click in the ticks area, it'll set a key without changing your value. So this one, it'll just set a key at 50%. And if you click the line below it, it'll jump it by increments of 20. So if you have like 33 and you want it to be 53.3, you can click on the time slider and it'll jump to 53. If anybody knows how to make that increment less than 20, like I'd like it better if it was 10, that way I could get rid of my plus 10, minus 10. If you know how to do that, go ahead and email me. I'd love to hear a solution for that. But as of now, if you click on the time slider, it just goes through in increments of 20. It also works on modifiers. If you go and add a modifier to the teapot, we'll add a bend. Let's get rid of our old keys here. Add a bend modifier, and we'll animate it to bend. Let's make it bend 40. And if I want my in between at frame 12, I go and click in between, and it sets the angle to 20 at frame 12. And it only sets the key on what I've animated in the properties. I was originally going to release it with no biped support whatsoever, and I was just going to say it doesn't work with biped, but then I was like, it's 3D Max and probably should at least try to do something with biped. Here I made a copy. The red is just a copy of the biped with regular positional controllers. It's not a biped, it's just a copy just to kind of show what happens on a normal rotations, because biped kind of handles rotation differently than other objects. So, and right now it doesn't support the IK keys, so it'll act as if the IK of the biped is always set to 0, so the feet will slide. I mean, if you go from key to key, and you can see the left looks like it should stay put, but since I'm not taking the IK into account, it's going to do it like the feet are going to move pretty much like how it is now. So you go and it'll try to, whoops, and it'll give you a warning if you don't have your animate button on, or your auto key, I should say, button on, or in key mode. So I in between, and it goes and gives me the 50% value between those two keys. So it does work on biped, but it's not fully supported yet. I may go and fix the IK thing so I can have my feet and hands, if they're IK'd, in place to actually stay in place, but we'll see if I get to that. So probably most importantly, I went and got Lomax, or downloaded Lomax off the internet to make sure that it worked with him. Just select his controls, go to frame 10 and add an in-between. And now he's got an in-between pose. Eyebrow controls where it should all work now. So if you go and want to animate his eyebrow to a value of 40, then we go to some other frame, like, I don't know, we'll go to frame 3, and in between his eyebrow it goes to frame 20. So it supports Lomax, which is important for us animators. He's the go-to rig, the go-to free rig on the internet. I also tried it with another internet character. This character is D, and he kind of, every time I do one of these custom rigs, it kind of introduces new things that I hadn't really thought of. On this guy, it was, see, he's got a, I'll show you the keyframes. He's got this key and this key. So we go to halfway through, give him a key there, and in between. But I noticed when I go to the next key, which should be this, his arms would be messed up. And the reason for that is that I switched from IK, or here he's in FK, his arms are FK, and then when you switch to IK, it hides his FK controls and shows his IK controls. So you just have to make sure you got to select all the animator controllers on an object. So now when I in between, or when I go to the next key, it is now correct because it also in betweens his IK pose as well as his FK pose. So that's just maintenance. You got to make sure with your character you select every single keyable thing, and use your set key to set a key, and just to make sure everything you want keyed has a key, and you shouldn't run into that problem. So that's that. That's Tween Machine. Go ahead and give it a try. I think it'll work for most everything that you guys need it to work for. And that's it. Go ahead and visit my website at themichaelsmith.com and keep on animating.